Live at Onigashima! I'm Anthony.
And I'm Jimmy, and today we finally have another versus battle. As you can
Here
see
we
in
go.
the title, we're going big. Law versus Zoro. And the reason we picked this one is if you saw our top 30 video, we both had them pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
I won't spoil where we had it. Maybe you'll get an idea towards the end of the video.
I think
But
we both
it's a
had them
pretty
like
close
right
matchup.
next to them. Yeah, I think most people have had this particular matchup in mind. Especially recently, we just saw in the anime Blackbeard versus Law just got animated, which is sick. So everybody's talking about
Well,
Law.
honestly, I haven't seen the episode yet, but I obviously know what happens in the manga. So
Yeah, same. No, I've seen like clips of it, but I didn't want to have that influence the way that I thought about this, because in the anime they flesh everything out, but I think I have a pretty good idea of where I put Law, regardless of how cool it's animated or whatever. I will say the Goro no Mi, from the clips that I saw, looks pretty crazy. And
well, it's a good thing Law doesn't have to fight that in this battle. So I think some of the things we should point out right away is, one, their powers, which obviously Zoro doesn't have powers, he just has swords. But
Yeah.
two, their hockey. I think those are the two big factors when we're looking at it.
Mhm.
And at least for Law, he has good hockey, but the armament hockey I think just doesn't match up to Zoro from what we've seen.
That's my thing, is that so for me, if Zoro hits Law, it's fucking over. I don't see Law surviving almost any of Zoro's attacks. Now, there is something to be said about Law being able to outsmart Zoro and get around. Not to say that Zoro doesn't have battle smarts either, he does, but if Law comes in with a plan, if it's prepped Law, I could see it going.
Law's the
towards
new
Law,
Batman. Law with prep time.
Yeah. So, if it's that, then sure. But I think it's fair to say that maybe they're enemies on Onigashima or something, one of these random encounter things to make it more fair. Because I don't think Law with prep time is fair. I just think he's too smart of a character, and most of the time, unless the character is vastly above Law probably comes out on top in those scenarios.
And honestly, we've kind of seen it. Even when characters are vastly above Law, clear example, Big Mom, it's not like he can't take a beating either. The difference is mainly the types of attacks Zoro uses versus
Right.
Big Mom. Big Mom's a lot more blunt force, while Zoro's cutting, which can be a lot more lethal. But I could argue that Law can kind of bypass some of that if he has his room up. Because getting cut he might be like Buggy in his room, basically. He can get cut and just put himself back together.
But might be. I want to see that shit. He didn't do that against Doflamingo. He got his arm cut off, and then he did put it back on, but it took him a while. It wasn't really this crazy Buggy just warp himself back together feat. He was he was down. He was gonna die against Doflamingo until Luffy saved him.
Yeah, it seems like it would be hard to get that off mid-fight. So I think we both kind of agree then. Zoro, in terms of raw AP output, probably beats Law, but Law is craftier. So we're really coming at this from the angle of how can Law outsmart Zoro? And I actually think he has a lot of tools for that. Some of the simple ones off rip are just shambles. He can just teleport wherever he wants to. That's kind of broken, especially if there's a lot of just objects. And as they fight, more and more dust and rocks and things are going to get launched in the air. And we see Law can teleport to these tiny things. He teleports to raindrops no problem.
Yeah, no, he'll be able to get around Zoro pretty easily. And the thing is with Zoro, I don't think he's somebody that wouldn't be able to kind of dissect. I think he'd be able to dissect Law's ability, because he really had to do that with King in the moment quickly, and we know that Zoro is one of these very fast, very hard-hitting characters. So when he does figure it out, it's wham, you're done. So
then I think that comes down to Zoro then has to figure out Law's pattern in when he's changing and where he's going to be. And that might involve a little bit of intuition and use of observation hockey, seeing where he's going, where he's going to, not necessarily getting to future sight where he can see the future, because obviously we know Zoro can't do that yet. But we do he could just be so fast at reacting that right when Law teleports, if he has some idea where he's gonna teleport, he might be able to change his direction and hit Law also.
I think that's kind of, you know, I don't think that's like a bad thing to give Zoro. Like, I don't know if Law has the crazy, like the teleporting is obviously teleporting and that's like a big speed feat, but like, you know, Zoro has been consistently shown to see that kind of stuff and like block. Like he did that against Kaido and Big Mom's attack when they like spam attacked him, you know, like he did that.
I will say in that scenario though, those big attacks that Zoro has blocked, and it's super impressive that he's even living through some of these things, but it just kind of shows that he can do it when he sees these big things coming. But I think Law is a little bit craftier than that.
So what do you think? Sorry to interrupt, but what do you think like the comparison within their observation hockey is though? Because like, you know, I think that Law is craftier for sure, but I don't know if he has the like what comes first, like the craftiness or the observation hockey?
Well, I don't think we've seen a lot of observation hockey from either of them. We saw Zoro in Fishman Island dodging like fodder with it, but like I don't think that's saying that much, honestly.
Yeah, but his reaction time is a testament to that. Law doesn't really have like crazy I mean, he has like some reaction.
That's what I think Law loses in, is just raw speed. Like I think strength and speed, Zoro is just winning outright. And speed is one of those big factors. But I do think Law has a lot of attacks to help nullify against Zoro. One, like, even though Zoro is super durable, we've seen Law do it before. He could attack people from the inside, and that does a lot more damage. Like, we saw it affect Kaido.
For sure.
And Kaido is probably a bigger tank than Zoro.
Well, here's what I'm going to say about that, is that, like, the counter shock, it is, you're right, it's big. And it did affect, you know, Big Mom and Kaido and, like, Doflamingo and all these people, but, like, I think that Zoro has the durability feats to kind of be able to come out on top in that. Like it'll hurt him for sure, but I don't think it's gonna take him down. I think the only thing of Laws that like realistically would take him down is there's two things. One is if, you know, somehow he cuts out Zoro's heart and just able to like torture him with it.
I think that's a big win condition, you know, for Law.
Or like cut him up somehow, you know, blind him with the fucking, you know, blind him and then shambles his eyeballs or whatever. But you know, that's never really done to like more top tiers. We could also tell it's hard for me
exactly
to
since he hasn't
that.
done it to any top tiers. It's hard to give it. Like we see him cut the heads off and play around with fodder marines and stuff, but he's never done, like, if he could have, he would have done it to like Kaido and Big
right.
Mom,
And he said that he couldn't because their hockey was too strong. And so yeah, you know, I don't think that Law's at a point yet where I think I don't think his hockey's stronger than Zoro. Fuck no. I think that, you know, the only realistic win condition, so that aside, right, I think the only realistic win condition is the puncture willy, like the big one he did against Big Mom. That might hurt Zoro enough to get him down.
Okay. I think that hurts Zoro a lot. If Big Mom was getting cooked by it, like, I'm sorry, but Big Mom has better durability than
for sure
Zoro does.
Yeah.
So he just has to find a way to be able to get that off, because the reason he was able to get it off last time is with the help of Kid. And if he's not going to have Kid in this fight, it's like, where can he hold Zoro down to get this? The one nice thing about that for Law, though, well, so this is the thing, though. That move actually does give Law a huge advantage against Zoro, because right now we've been talking how it's been melee to melee fighting, Zoro with swords and, you know, Law basically doing the same. But that attack lets Law extend his sword really far. We saw him do it against like Blackbeard, just stab him in the sky.
But he wouldn't get that opportunity to do it against Zoro without somebody like
if he teleports behind him, right? Like
he could if he hits him after he teleports behind him, but the reaction time like of Zoro, I think that Zoro, even if Law did that, like he would need another thing to get around Zoro. Like he would have to really trick Zoro. Like I don't know if you're giving Zoro enough credit with the reaction speed that he has. Like he is able to do some crazy stuff. Like I can see him, you know, going back and forth with Law, but and maybe if Law gets like really serious and like that's what he saves to the very end, because he does do that, you know, against Big Mom, then maybe Law can pull it out. But like I don't know. I think 9 times out of 10, like, my reaction is that Zoro would just go for an insta-kill move because he's done it a lot. Like, he always goes for, like, one big move and then just, like, you know, does it. Whereas, like, Law is more methodical and would probably save the Puncture Willy until past the point of no return.
So my point with that is, you said Zoro does this all the time where he starts out with these big moves and he's usually this, if I land it, I win type of character.
He will.
But Law... Like, again, we know he's crafty. He's been with Zoro a while now. He knows that this can happen. He's gonna see that coming, and he's gonna be ready for it. Like,
I think he'll know that it's coming. I don't know if he'll be ready for it. I don't know if he'll be able to react.
I don't think he's that slow as you're giving it either. Where even if Zoro, like, blitzes him, like, I think he can at least react to it. Like, he wasn't, like... He was keeping up with all of the Yonko and the other, like, Supernova on the rooftop also. It's not like he was falling behind in speed necessarily.
I guess that's true, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Like, I don't think Zoro is so vastly above him in speed that it's just like, nope, Law can't react to it at all.
No, you're right, you're right. I think you know, he does... I think Law has good reaction time, too. And I think his ability just, like, lets it be over the top a little bit. But
yeah, I think, and that's the thing, I think his reaction time mixed with the ability, because he could do things like start that Puncture Willy attack, shambles to something right behind Zoro, and then extend it like fast without Zoro being able to realize. And I'm not saying that would necessarily take out Zoro, but it's crafty things like this that Law has in his arsenal versus Zoro, who I feel like is very like standard fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. He's standard fighter, but like, I trust in Zoro to pick apart Law enough to be able to beat him. I don't know, like I just feel it, and I agree. Like, this is kind of a back and forth. Like, we're never. I don't know where to scale this, because it's like, okay, how do you think Law does against somebody like King? Like, I think Law beats King, but I think Zoro beats King too. So this is a moot point. So, but no.
Like,
I mean, it's like
matchups.
there's no comparison as like Law hasn't had an opponent that Zoro, I think, could beat yet. You know what I mean? Like, Law's last opponents were Blackbeard and Big Mom.
Which I don't think Zoro's beating either of them.
Right. Whereas like Law is definitely fucking up Lucci and King, you know? So it's implied that Law is stronger, for sure.
I think they're pretty equal, and I think both of us have kind of showed where we kind of stand a little bit more. Seems like you're a little bit more on the Zoro side, I'm a little bit more on the Law side. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it could kind of go either way, and until we get a few more, like, I don't know, we just need a few more feats from each of them interacting with similar characters, because I think you're right. Neither of them have really had any overlay in who they fight. Like, not even close. But one thing I can give to Zoro over Law is, like, I don't think Law can go up against, like, characters like Pika, for instance. These gigantic characters. I mean, I know he cut the mountain, but that wouldn't really have killed Pika because he could just reassimilate.
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we saw against Blackbeard right now, is that the AoE of the Gura Gura, like, was too much for Law, essentially.
Yeah.
So, you know, I agree with that.
Law is a more methodical fighter, like we've been saying, but like you said,
it's just like in this matchup,
ways.
Right? It's just, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was gonna say he doesn't have good ways of dealing with these big scale attacks. Like, maybe he can dodge him if he teleports far enough away, but then he needs a big enough room to be able to do that. So if you could just make attacks that are covering his whole room, it's kind of hard for him to do anything.
For sure. I just don't know that Zoro could do that. I mean, like, people would say that his attacks are, like, explosive, but I think it's more of, like, you know, what we're saying with the slashy one-shotty kind of thing. Personally, like, that's what I think we've seen. I mean, the King battle was pretty epic, and there's a lot of explosions going around, and, like, but, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know if Law would be able to dodge some of the things that Zoro can dish out. Like, when Zoro did that, like, the first attack that Big Mom was like, oh, dodge, Kaido, you gotta dodge, and he cut off the horn of Onigashima. Like, that would,
like, if that hits,
kill
that's
Law,
like
for sure, right?
Kaido, yeah.
So,
and yeah, attacks like that are definitely big enough and strong enough to kill Law.
And it's like they can probably get him. I don't know. Like, it's if Law has a reaction time. I
don't think Zoro can necessarily get him with it, because the only reason Zoro kind of almost hit Kaido with it is because Kaido's fighting like 4 other people and he had the chance to like jump up there and he wasn't being looked at. But if Law is watching Zoro do this the entire time, I don't think he just like is gonna let himself get hit by any means. So
I guess, yeah. I don't know. This is definitely like a difficult one. I could realistically, like, I need to see Zoro do something. I don't know. Like, I could see people. I could see Zoro beating some of Law's opponents in the future, right? Like, I could see Zoro potentially beating if Big Mom's alive. I don't think that's gonna happen in the story, but if we had to pit Big Mom against Zoro, like a potential future Zoro, I could see Zoro winning, right? Like later on in the story.
And I agree with
but
that.
Like, sorry, you know, I mean, but like, you know, Law has these hacks that just are gonna permeate over a matchup like this. So I don't know if it's ever gonna be fair for Zoro in this scenario. But
well, that's what I was gonna say, is like, even though we're going to see Zoro at a point where he's going to be stronger than Big Mom, I don't think it's fair to say that right now. I think we have to take it from the perspective of where we're at currently, because by the end of the series, yeah, I definitely think Zoro is going to be above Law. But for right now, at least for me, I stand a little bit in the Law camp. I'm like 55-45 on it.
But do you really think that like eventually, like what if Law gets stronger? Do you think Zoro's gonna be able to get around all this shit eventually? Like, what is it gonna take for Zoro to be above Law?
I mean, he's just gonna be stronger and faster.
He is stronger and faster.
He needs to develop those long range attacks, and he's starting to, like those slashes he's starting to get. But if he can be more accurate and faster with those,
oh man, bro,
and maybe even if he gets future sight, because I could potentially somehow see him getting that, like that could be it. Maybe him unlocking the advanced conqueror's hockey like fully, because I mean we saw him kind of use it, but I don't know. We need to see him use it consistently for me to believe he can like whip it out.
Okay, but like but he did it. So like even if so if that's a win condition, I would say like the future sight is more of a win condition. But like if you're saying that advanced conqueror's hockey could be a win condition, like bro, he did it. Like I don't know, you know, we're still talking about if Law would get hit by it or not. Well, because my thing with the advanced
conquerors is since it's like protruding out from Zoro's body, like Law might not necessarily be able to react the same way as he does now. Like dodging physical attacks is different than dodging these invisible force field hockey attacks that they're dishing out.
And he can do that.
Well, he hasn't shown the protruding one. He just showed it like applying to like around his swords. But I'm talking about like how like Luffy does it, where he can literally like shoot his like hockey out from his fist.
Yeah, but it's like
an air blast type thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's pretty close.
Well, yeah, he's getting there. He's getting there. I think he'll get there eventually.
I think that Zoro can do that now. Like I think if we see in this Zoro versus Lucci fight, he probably won't. He probably won't need to. He'll probably just like lion strike the guy and it'll be over like he did to Apu. But you know. We'll see about that. Like I think both of them we need more. We're more likely to get more shit from Zoro than we are from Law anytime soon.
Yeah, Law's cooked.
Yeah, Law's done for. But you know, I think we both made our points. I'll say this, like I'm still on the fence about this 50-50. Like I put Zoro ahead by just a little tiny bit. You know, like I'm gonna give it to Zoro, but I could if you know, like if we saw it in the anime, like if tomorrow, you know, Law for some fucking reason shows up on Egghead and then beats Zoro for whatever goddamn reason, I'll be like, oh okay, I guess Law's stronger. Like I would totally accept it.
But then if you see it the other way and Law gets cooked, like
of course,
exactly, like it can go either way. So let us know what you guys think in the comments. Like I said, I'm pretty Law skewed, but barely Law skewed, honestly. And I think Zoro's going to pass. But yeah.
All right, y'all. Let us know. This is it for us. Fight us in the comments.
And like, comment, subscribe.
Peace out. Peace.